Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by Tom Althouse, Brian Sang, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Brian Sang, co-host Beyond the Box, is Full Disclosure Now Movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Patriot's Perspective, and Beyond the Box. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hello, everybody. Today is April 12th, 2024, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Box. Tonight, we have Tommy Edwards with us, very famous Virginia Tech football, as well as what his dad was. And he also was involved in the Super Soldier program. And he is a musician. I have been listening to his music all week, and it's fantastic. And Susie, we got Susie over here.
Howdy.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
That's good. I'm tired today, but that's okay. So I am going to bring in the hostess that does the mostest. And here she is.
That would have to be me for sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, have we got a guest for you tonight. Our guest, Tommy Edwards, I was just in a Spaces on X with him. He was telling a little bit of his story. We're going to give him full reign this hour. I've got a photo of him with some very well-known musicians. I also have three videos. One, he was a prolific football player, as was his father at Virginia Tech. He talks about being trained and having handlers since he was a very young boy. Virginia Tech is also known for the Virginia Tech shooting, which I believe was an MK Ultra shooting. We'll talk about that as well. I have a cut of one of his songs. It's called Peace and Pain. And as an individual who has what he terms brain slosh, which that's one of his videos, I have a brain slosh teaser and then also a brain slosh test. There's a video that he put together because, as you know, when you play football, you do retain injuries from all the hits that you're taking. And my brother David was a football star as well. He had a scholarship to University of Louisville. And when he was at Norland, an individual named Greg tackled him, Greg Stead. Nixon came down to visit him. And David said, why didn't he come down to visit me? And the paparazzi was all around him. but he didn't tackle Greg. Greg tackled him, and Greg became a paraplegic. So we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. I asked Tommy, what is it with the football aspect of the Super Soldier program? I actually said, what is it with the footballing? Because also my brother John was in football, and his son was in football, and he said that is Super Soldier training ground.
I
Yeah,
don't doubt
it
that.
is.
Don't doubt it all. All right,
Athletes
let
and
me
musicians.
bring
yeah.
in our handsome and very intelligent Mr. Tom Althouse, who is swinging around.
Oh, that's-
I can't do that. I'm on a couch. My couch doesn't spin.
Oh,
I can do that,
That's
but
my
I'll,
body. My body's doing this. I'm just.
I can do that, but I'll take out my desk and the side of the bed, and oh Lord! All right, are we ready to bring out Tommy Edwards? Yes, yes. And here he is.
Our two Toms.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, so we have lots to talk about tonight with you. And I think let's I guess if you want to start with young versions of you when you were little and maybe your super soldier and into your football, we can start there.
Okay. Before I was playing football, I was just a little kid, and my dad played at Virginia Tech and was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1970. And then his younger brother, little preface, younger brother was diagnosed with cancer at 19, had to have his eye removed, and my dad left Buffalo to be with him when he came out of surgery. That's when my dad got put on waivers, and Dad was actually a fullback who blocked for O.J. Simpson. And
I'm sorry, what? Say that again.
My dad was a fullback for O.J. Simpson.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
So,
that's pertinent because OJ just kicked the bucket.
Yeah,
I heard.
I saw that.
And so my dad went to be with my younger brother Tommy, who ended up dying 9 months before I was born. I was actually conceived during the grief of his passing. And
Wow.
but while my dad was in Buffalo, my mom went to visit him, and when she got out of the cab from the airport, my mom handed my dad my sister Angie, who handed Angie to OJ, and then her twin Lisa, and OJ was holding both the girls there for a minute. And
I'm sorry, your mom was a twin?
No, my mom had twins.
Oh.
Sister had twins. And my
Twins
older
in the
sister
family.
was a
Wow.
twin. What's that? How many?
Wait, she was a twin and she had twins?
No. My oldest sister was a
No.
twin, and my sister Lisa died when she was 16 months old, just like unexplained.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a lot of born to a lot of grief, and actually my mom was in the hospital. They came down to visit my grandfather, who was in the hospital with a heart attack, and she went into labor while she was at the hospital there. That's why I was born in Radford. We didn't live here at the time.
Where were you born?
Radford.
Radford, Virginia.
Okay.
And so oddly enough, there's another former Tech player that happened to find his way to the waiting room with my dad, and his name's Stephen Epperly, who's the first person in Virginia to be convicted of murder without a body. After he murdered the daughter of another Virginia Tech football player that he didn't know. I guess he didn't know who she was, but he picked her up. I think as part of a human trafficking scheme in 1980. And my former teacher / programmer that was here with MindReach from SRI at request for them to come see if they could locate her body. That's where I initially bumped into him when I was 6 years old at Tasty Freeze, and he had kind of a vision. He was one of the architects of the remote viewing program for the U.S. government. And he had kind of a vision. They were looking for kids with psychic abilities at the time, and he realized that I had some abilities. And he spoke to my grandmother, who I was with, and she worked for the U.S. government since she was 16. And when she retired, since my dad was a little boy on, she worked at the Radford Army Ammunition Plant, the underground facility, which was top secret at the time. and directly for the general. She had crypto clearance, like the highest level clearance that a civilian can have. And she was actually buried next to my grandfather in the Veterans Cemetery.
Wow.
But yeah, when I first started exploring different like ufology and stuff, trying to better understand what was going on with me or happening to me. That's after some events started happening when I was at Virginia Tech. I asked her about some of the programs like Majesty and Majestic and those things, and she confirmed that she had heard those things, heard about them, because she was the person that could access and bring in any of the information that was being sent into the facility because of her clearance. So if they were getting like a fax or something in the middle of the night, she'd have to get up and go to work and receive it. But she started taking me with her to her work. She worked directly for the general that ran the thing.
Wow.
And who the same guy had pushed for my dad to go to the not Naval Academy, Army.
Army military?
Yeah, the Army, like the West Point.
West Point.
When they were recruiting him out of high school, and he didn't want to go there because it reminded him too much of a prison. And he had been programmed, I think, as a child too. My aunt said that at my grandfather's funeral, my aunt said that he went to a camp when he was 12 years old and came back just a different person.
Do you know what kind of camp?
He has no memory of it. But my aunt said he came back just mean, just something off. And it's always seemed like he
Probably
had
what they did to him. Yeah.
They tortured him.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is one of the MK Ultra like sites. This whole area actually, you had Virginia Tech, the Army ammunition plant there, and then also the St. Albans private psychiatric hospital, which is one of the most haunted buildings in Virginia, or the most haunted building in Virginia, I guess. They were all like MK Ultra project sites. This whole area was like an open air behavioral modification laboratory.
Do you think, Tommy, that the Virginia Tech shooting was an MK Ultra shooting?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I started a nonprofit organization after the shootings called the Heart of Virginia Foundation as a way to help the community heal and to raise awareness for mental health and destigmatize mental illness as a way to prevent school shootings. And in doing so, we wound up working with actually the father, one of the boys that was shot, became our chairman of our board of directors, Roger Odell, and his son Derek was shot at Tech, and Derek was the first one out of the hospital. But we wound up doing some work with the Virginia Tech Victims Family Foundation, and they funded some of our efforts into schools and stuff to raise awareness for mental health. And so I got to know some of the families and some of the students that survived. And it was there were multiple accounts of the shooter, like that were conflicting. There were a few people that said that they actually saw two people shooting, and like there's some former special forces that said that if it was just Song Wei Cho, who had never had any access to firearms until about 6 months before that, when he bought a 9mm and a 22 and went to a shooting range 2 or 3 times, was able to in like 20 minutes he killed 32 people, but he wounded another 25. And there were 2 in a dorm room before that, earlier that morning, and supposedly he left there, went to his dorm room, changed clothes, and then went to the post office in downtown Blacksburg to mail the tape that ended up at NBC, and then went to the classroom or the dorm, locked the doors on the inside, and shot almost 60 people.
He mailed the tape to the media?
Yeah. And the CIA was on campus the week prior running drills.
Of course. It sounds so familiar. Same thing with the Marjorie Stoneman shooting.
Yes, they're
Hands and everything.
They recruit heavily out of Virginia Tech, and have lots of DARPA connections and lots of DARPA projects there. But there was a picture of Sung Wei Cho in military, like fatigues, camos, with kind of a half mask thing on, with two other guys, and like embracing him. And he was like a selective mute, had autism, and didn't really. He was antisocial, you know. So that was really an odd kind of photo that showed up. There were some mysterious deaths that happened to some of the students that survived in the weeks following. One of them was a single car accident where the car basically disintegrated.
Interesting.
And the kid that was so
Wow.
distraught that he couldn't. He had to have somebody drive him home to Northern Virginia, and then 2 days later he's in that accident. They said he was drag racing.
Well, sure he was.
Yeah, so it looked more like a cruise missile. Hit the car, from what I understand. Yeah, there's I heard stories going back, into the 80s and 70s where like there was a professor that suddenly had a nervous breakdown. It was somebody that was at odds with the administration at the university, and he wound up they dosed him with a bunch of acid, and then he just lost his mind. There's a lot of just in the area in general following the shootings at Tech. There was a Radford University student a few years later that went and robbed his stole the car from his property manager at gunpoint, drove to Blacksburg, parked the car out on the Smart Road, took a bus in, and walked up and shot a police officer on campus that was sitting in his car giving somebody else a ticket, and then walked over ran over into the greenhouses, changed clothes, wrote something on the wall. I've still been trying to find out what he wrote on the wall, and then apparently last time he was seen alive was by a police officer that saw him up in, they called it the cage. It's the student parking for on-campus students, and away from campus, it's kind of a long walk. They said he saw him in between two cars and then drove up there. He had shot himself. This was a young man from Spotsylvania County. He was actually a running back too, popular, and he just recently bought a pistol before that. And then there was another shooting at the community college that by two biology professors. The two biology professors who was on Tech campus that day helping his parents with a PowerPoint. He left to go to lunch, went to the campus at the Newer Valley Mall and shot 3 people there. Right before the upcoming Texans happened in April. The next fall, there was a Chinese national student that beheaded another Chinese national student in a coffee house on campus with a knife.
Jeez Louise.
You don't hear about these because it was only one person.
Right. I when you told me about, because I'd forgotten about this incident at Virginia Tech, but it happened April 16th, 2007. My brother David was murdered 12 days later.
We're almost at the anniversary of that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I also Googled how far it was from Radford to Langley. It's only about 4 hours.
Yeah, the farm's closer. And actually, the head of clandestine services began working for the CIA when she was a sophomore at Virginia Tech, and she graduated in 1983. And I've heard that Tech is behind my targeting by multiple people.
So now when you go into, because it's a natural matriculation for you because your father was in football, you go into football. Tell us a little bit about what happens to you in football.
Well, they started recruiting me when I was 10 years old when they sent me to a football camp there. And they put me in the room with the running back coach as my roommate. And this was when it was still the Dooley coaching staff. And he was the only coach to stay over from that staff to the next staff. And then when I signed in letter of intent in 91, he got promoted to assistant head coach. And 93, I led the nation in scoring for half a season. It's beginning in week 2. We went to Pittsburgh, had 4 touchdowns, and all of a sudden I was the NCAA scoring leader. from third string at Virginia Tech. It's kind of just a mind fuck, you know. It's gaslighting. It's a form of human trafficking, abuse, exploitation, enrichment. You know, it's something, and it's a huge part of the entertainment industrial complex.
Yes, it is, because people don't realize that. They think, oh, well, it's just sports, and they divorce it from sports entertainment, which sports entertainment and sports people are regularly blackmailed and bribed because they want an outcome for betting purposes. But as I told you, John went to school with an individual who's a very heavy duty sports promoter.
Oh yeah, it's all interrelated. You know, all of, you know, the music industry, entertainment industry, Hollywood, all of the sports entertainment. It's all it's
Well,
it's sort of smack.
CIA.
They got their
exactly.
hand in everything. Yeah.
Exactly. They run it. They run the thing, and it's a Circus Maximus. You know, give them bread and circus.
Now, I had told a little bit about my brother David when he was a football star, and an individual tackled him. His name was Greg Stead. Greg Stead became a paraplegic, and subsequently, years later, he sued the helmet company. People don't understand what happens to you in football. Can you tell us what happened to you in football?
Well, you know, the movie Concussion that Will Smith was the starred in, it was basically focused on the pathologist that discovered chronic traumatic encephalopathy, better known as CTE, which before that it was known as Boxer's dementia or dementia pugilistica, which is defined as that in 1929 and 32, and it's a result of repeated just like trauma to the head. It doesn't have to be concussive. I mean, there's lots of people that have no reported concussions that end up with CTE, and it's called brain slosh. It's like when you stop suddenly or you get hit, your brain, it's like jello inside the skull, which has all these rigid, like hard, pointy aspects to hold the brain in place, and it dissipates the energy from the impact, and it does that by like this, and it's
Right,
not
like an infant that has when you shake a baby, like that.
Exactly. So what happens is the energy dissipates, and it's not really a linear thing because the structures of the brain are inconsistent. You know, you have soft, it's basically parts that are just filled with a fluid, and so you get this twisting, contorting, and pushing, and pulling, and compressing, and then eventually it resolves itself in a rotational motion down the brainstem. So you see a lot of damage in football players in the frontal lobe, temporal lobes, in the occipital lobe, in the parietal lobe, but also in the substructure underneath the brain, which is the primitive brain, where you got the amygdala and like your emotional regulation and your ability to recognize danger, that's the structure of the damage that causes PTSD, which I was diagnosed with while I was in college at Boise State after transferring from Virginia Tech. And so when you get this brain slosh, it tears synapse, systemically through the brain, more so in some areas than others. But when that happens, the tau protein bundles that wrap around the synapse, they unbundle. They come unwound and out into the area around there, and then eventually they start to self-replicate when it reaches a critical mass of damage, like systemically, and then as the tau protein replicates, and tau is something you see in Alzheimer's, you see it in a 1-to-1 ratio, but in CTE it's just the tau protein. There's no amyloid B protein, so it starts to replicate, and then it starves off the capillaries, which causes more cell death, and then those synapses, like the tau comes off there, and then that starts to self-replicate. So it's a degenerative condition. So it eats more and more and more and more of the brain away, and that's why, like advanced cases of CTE, you see all this tissue loss in the brain, and the brain has shrunken inside the skull, especially in specific areas, and it affects everything you do, and it creates all these phantom symptoms that you go to your doctor, and if he didn't know anything about it, they just try to diagnose you from the symptomology and just treat the symptoms or do symptom management, which for me that was like catastrophic. It triggered suicidal ideation after just a couple days on Zoloft.
Right. Most people don't know when they put you on antidepressants, it causes suicidal ideations. What did the doctors also do to you? You told me something about a tetanus shot. Oh yeah,
in October of 2018, I got a request from my attorneys for my concussion litigation, lawsuit against the NCAA and Virginia Tech as part of a class action. That they're requesting new imagery of my brain. I had the year before I had 3D scans done at the Almond Clinic that showed systemic damage, holes about that big in my parietal lobe, a tunnel through my frontal lobe. My right temporal lobe was cut in half. My left temporal lobe had big erosion in it, and all across my brain there are all these divots. I mean, I can send you a picture of that, or there's something. But it's pretty horrific. Like, I had one neurologist say it looked like it got run over by a car. The neurologist that did my post eval said that she thought she had the wrong images because typically somebody with that amount of brain damage would live in a nursing home. This was 2006.
How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 50.
And when did this damage occur to you?
Starting as a child, because it's an accumulative amount. It happens. Like, I started having some early symptoms of CTE as early as 8th grade.
That's insane.
Yeah, with the depression and anxiety portion of it, and then typically people start seeing guys they start football at 12 years old. They start seeing symptomology about 24, 25 years old. Every year under the age of 12, you start seeing it 2 years or a year earlier, and then every year under the age of 10, it's 2 years earlier. I started playing football in the 4th grade. Like organized football, but I would go practice with the older boys my dad coached when I was in the 1st grade, and he would use me as an example a lot of times. And he had me there's the biggest kid on the team didn't want to hit anybody. He just wasn't a very physical guy. So he had me come down, called me off the monkey bars at the park they were practicing out, and I had to run back and get my helmet because I forgot it, And showed up, and he had me get down to the 3-point stance and fire off against this kid, and I knocked him down. The kid got embarrassed, and then they lined us up again, and the kid gave me a concussion. I was a 1st grader. I remember my head feeling like a big balloon. I had several different brain injuries as a kid. I got hit in the head with a baseball bat by my sister and a hammer at two different times.
I got hit in the head with a baseball bat too.
Yeah, she did an aluminum baseball bat.
My sister did it to me.
Yeah, mine too. And
what is that about?
It was an accident. I walked up behind her when she swung.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, they said I was too young to get out of the way, so I figured I was going to be the umpire. And I remember that really, made me sideways. And that was at my cousin's 8th birthday party, so I would have been 5.
Okay, there's a picture that you sent me.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about this?
Yeah, okay, the top left is the underside of the brain, and you can see the top of it is the frontal lobe, and you see the temporal lobes off to either side. The on the left side, that's my right temporal lobe. See how it's cut in half?
Yes.
That fissure, and that's actually where the cursor is right now. That's my frontal lobe. That's one hole that goes through a tunnel through the frontal
That's
lobe.
huge.
Yeah. And then on the other side, the right side of the picture, but the left temporal lobe in the same diagram on the upper left, but the right side of the brain, actually over back to the underside of the brain, yeah. But so that's the left temporal lobe on the right side. That's got a deep hole that goes up into it. All that shadowing all across all of it. The scalloping, none of that should be there.
All this? None of that should be there?
No. And
Wow.
and then the bottom right diagram is the top of my brain. And that's my parietal lobe where those two big holes are.
Mm-hmm.
And where the holes are and stuff, that's where it's showing no blood flow.
Oh, wow.
That's how it's like 14,000 snapshots that they construct into the 3D model. And a family friend paid for that. Somebody who had grown up with my dad, and she had a child that's hydrocephalic, and she met me when I was running the Heart of Virginia Foundation, and she said that some of the conversation we had inspired her to write a book about her son, and then she had gotten an inheritance and reached out and offered to pay for this testing because I was really kind of struggling.
Wow.
After my kid's mom left with him, and I went to Reston, Virginia, and had these scans done. I was by myself when I got when I did the post eval with the lady. It was devastating. Afterwards I went out and sat in my car and cried for 3 hours.
And there's nothing that they can do at all, or
right now, officially you can't be diagnosed with CTE until you're dead.
Oh, wow.
Because nobody's funding any diagnostic for it. I mean, there are doctors that study parallel stuff like Alzheimer's and dementia that have found drugs that will flush away the tau protein out of the brain and remove it from the brain, but he can't get funding to do any type of trials. Now, Dr. Amalu, who's the one that kind of defined CTE as what it was after doing the autopsy of two former Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Webster and Terry Long, and Webster's body was in such bad condition that he was wondering what the hell's going on with this guy, and that just kind of piqued his curiosity. And he was pulling his teeth out with pliers and then super gluing them back in.
Jesus Christ.
He had these fissures in the bottom of his feet that he had his feet duct taped together, just duct tape, not feet together, but the fissures in his feet. And he would huff gasoline and then shock himself with a taser to feel something. And then Terry Long drank a gallon of antifreeze.
Oh my God.
He's like, what would compel people to do this? And he's found these anomalies in the brain that were similar.
I was going to ask you, tell me, what is the suicide rate? Because people, when they go into playing professional ball, they've already, had longevity as children in the field. They are well aware that they could either die on the field or come out severely crippled and have abject pain for the remainder of their day. So, people complain that pro football players are paid too high. But when they get out, they could be suicidal or have brain damage, like you're saying. What are your thoughts on that?
And it's not just pro football players. I mean, there was a young man who committed suicide at 18 years old who from the Kansas City area that they sent his brain to the Boston Brain Study, and it was found that he had CTE. He had like early stage 2 CTE. He was 18 years old, and before that, the youngest person that had like really like high levels of within the it's a 4-tier structure, it's 4 stages. Who had stage 3 CTE was Aaron Hernandez. He had advanced CTE at 27 when he committed suicide in prison after murdering 2 people. It's something that like you just play Little League and wind up with CTE, and you don't have to have any concussions. It's just the brain slosh. Everybody's different. There's just genetic factors. There's certain positions where there's higher instances of it. Like maybe 10 years ago when there was there was a kind of a flood of football suicides. Well, I think a lot of that was in actually a shrink for the NFL that I spoke to as part of an intake for neurological rehab I went to in 2018, which turned out to be just that was like behavioral modification. I never saw a doctor. I never saw a doctor the whole time I was there. I got MRSA while I was there and still didn't see a doctor. But one thing they did was neurofeedback, which they mapped your brain, and that's the same. Once they have your brain map, that's like your brain print, and
Yes.
that's how they locate people for electronic harassment.
Yes, it is.
And that I've been dealing with that for the last 5 years to the point where I've got pretty much every hair follicle in my body produces 2 or more hairs, you know, and I've got just some maybe precancerous things going on from that, and it's ridiculous. There are 2 radio antennas across the street from my house in a train yard pointed down right at my house, which are they're microwave radio antennas. I started noticing high pitch in the fake cricket noise at my house in 2018 initially, and I've got recordings of it. You were talking about Amy's audio.
Yes, I might have some people that can help you in some very good ways, some naturopaths that might be able to help you. I have a couple of naturopaths. Kate Shimarani, she overcame cancer twice. She is her motto is natural nurse in a toxic world. She stood up against COVID, and she also spoke with David Icke, and she got, you know, and now right now her daughter was just diagnosed with cancer. She's back on the show again. And then I have another doctor, Dr. Lana Contos, who speaks about NutraSwish and Numi and what is it called, girls? Anybody?
The NutraSwish you're talking about?
What is it? Glycothione?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Glycothione?
glutathione.
Glutathione. Okay,
Glutathione.
there you go. I should have known because she had like this whole dance, you know, glucothione or whatever, glutathione, like YMCA, you know. And they have ways that you can naturally, you know, you can wean yourself off of some of the things that are very bad for you and naturally overcome some things. I'm not saying it's a panacea or it's going to fix everything, sure, but it may help to thwart some things. So I want to move you towards some of those people because you and I are going to stay in touch for sure. I'd like to bring in some pictures, first of all, a picture of you. Hold on just a sec. So can you tell us who's in that picture?
That's me in the red, white, and blue shirt there in the front when I was front man for a band called the Artemis Pyle Band. And Artemis is next to me in the cowboy hat. He was the drummer for Leonard Skinner from 1973 to 91. He's the only original living member from the band. And behind us is Tony Black. He was the bass player for the Marshall Tucker Band and for Buckethead. He was a guitar virtuoso, and Deli Creeps and some other bands. The gentleman to my left is Hal McCormick. He was the guitarist, which I can't see.
That guy?
Yeah. He was the guitarist for Tora Tora and Black Elk, Arkansas, and Survivor. And
right.
And then Sonny Matheny is standing in the back on the other side with the Western shirt on. He worked for Charlie Daniels Band, and that's how Artemis got hooked up with Leonard Skinner because Charlie was looking for a drummer initially, and then his drummer ended up staying. But Charlie told him that Ronnie Van Sant was needing a drummer because Bob Burns, their original drummer, had a psychotic break while they were on tour in England and threw a cat off a building and then chased a bunch of people down the street with it. And then the gentleman in the green shirt on the far right is one of my best friends in the world. That's Dimitri Chakonis. I met him out in San Diego, and he's also a drummer. And he and I had a band called Bastard Sons of Jefferson Davis for a while.
I think I heard of that song. I think I heard of that band. What year?
We started using that name in 2007, 2008, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I think I heard of you guys.
We had a band in San Diego called Bird Dog, and it was short-lived. His dad got sick and he had to move back to Ohio. I was back in Virginia helping my dad and wound up making some deliveries for my dad's business in the next town over, and went over to stay with him. And when I moved back, I went up for his birthday and we cut 16 tracks, and then he would come to Virginia and play music for mental health awareness gigs with me when I first started the nonprofit, and he went on did the Stigma tour with us. But he's a great guy, and everybody there they're all wonderful people.
What? I'm sorry. Can you tell me the guitarist name for Survivor again? I have to Google him.
His name's Hal McCormick.
Cal or Hal?
Hal.
Hal with an H or Al with an A?
Hal with an H. And we also had a Hammond B3 player that isn't pictured here that was also in Tora Tora in Black Oak, Arkansas, named Joe Boogie.
Okay, Joe, boogie on down, boogie on down. As I said, my keyboard player was in Ides of March, and Ides of March became Survivor. That was actually in my band Stranger with my husband. Now I want to play your trailer first. Let's play your trailer. Is that okay?
Yeah. This is a.
Robin had a question. If he
Okay.
played in Belly Up Tavern.
I never played Belly Up, but I'm familiar with it. I played all over San Diego. I actually had a little productions company that I started called San Diego Music Scene, and we did some events that like a kind of a multi-genre battle of bands. We got the band winner got signed by Atlantic Records, and the singer-songwriter winner ended up getting signed by Berkeley Hart, and it was a one-off thing that we did, and that was right before I ended up coming home for Easter when the Virginia Tech shootings happened, and I decided I was going to go back to Virginia and hold a big fundraiser concert in Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium, and got the ball rolling for that, and then they cut me out of it. And instead of doing it as a fundraiser, they spent like $4 million on the concert.
Oh shit. Okay, we know your integrity right there. Okay, here's this teaser. You created this, correct?
Yeah, this is the trailer or teaser for a documentary I started working on after I started experiencing I started getting a bunch of wellness checks anytime I talk about CTE on social media in my hometown there, and like I had the nonprofit organization talking about mental health and using pretty provocative language and kind of concepts as a way to draw awareness to mental health, because I didn't really have any money to do. We didn't have like a lot of funding, something I started out of my own pocket, and I was I'm a starving artist. So
yeah.
Are
you still working on this documentary?
I am. I've been dealing with disruption ever since I put this out. This actually came out. I put this out or finished it. Sorry, of 2000. What was it? 2018, and that was 2 months after the brain injury from a Tdap. I didn't get all the way through that. So I went to the doctor to get imagery, and as I was leaving, after talking to him about fear pharmacology and just treating symptoms, he asked me as I was leaving if I needed a tetanus shot, which seemed kind of odd. And I was importing metal art from Mexico, and I'd scratch myself on it all the time. I was wholesaling that, so I said, "Yeah, probably a good idea." And I sit down. They plunge the needle into me, and the nurse says, "Now with a Tdap, if your arm starts to hurt, you need to go to the emergency room." Well, I'm like, "Well, what's a Tdap?" She said, "Oh, it's a tetanus shot." So then I go back to my house and make a sandwich and get up to get a drink. Wake up 3 days later. I've been in a coma, face down on my bed, and then I was in a delirium for 10 days. I'd sleep like 20 hours a day, and get something to drink and use the bathroom. And the first time I got up to go to the bathroom after 3 days in a coma, I fell like 8 times before I made it to the door of my bedroom. And like I was a professional skateboarder in my late 20s, running back, impeccable balance. And suddenly it triggered Parkinsonism and messed with my balance. My eyes weren't tracking together. I've got a picture of I took a selfie and my eyes were out like this. And I didn't know that to me. I was just trying to take a selfie, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? So I went to a neurologist that I had been referred to try to get some images done, like maybe a week after I came out of the delirium. And when I told him what had happened, he said, "No, it's rare."
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I really hate doctors. I can't even, I can't even tell you. I told my last handler, Jarrell, if I went to Africa and I got shot, drag my body to the side of the road, stick a stick in my mouth, and use a spoon to pull the bullet out and let me bleed out on the side of the road before you ever let a doctor touch me. He's like, Jesus, Penny, you really hate doctors. So I'm going to play this now. This is
Play it, Penny.
Hold on just a second. Here we go.
Yep. Yeah.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. You just, if you need to stop me, just say, hey, stop. All right. Stop in the name of love. Okay, here we go.
In the South, we grew up on Jesus and football, intertwined, winding its way through everything that we did. It's just how it was. You didn't question it. On Fridays in the fall, stadium lights come on well before dusk, like a beacon calling the clans. The totemic expression of simulated war. A violent chess game serves as a fellowship, expression of solidarity and connectedness, quenching the bloodlust of masses by subjecting young warriors to self-sacrifice their bodies, brains, and future for the reputation, bragging rights, into the fields where legends are born and heroes die young. Underneath the Norman Rockwell-esque snapshot of the small town of American Green,
Okay, wait.
behind the
Give me just a
flags on
second.
Main Street,
Pause it.
lurking
I'm trying. Give me a second.
the drum
No, you're
line.
fine. It's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
That was my childhood home.
Okay, should I go backwards a little bit?
What was your football number, Tommy?
In high school, it was 21. In college, it was 33. Like my dad. My dad wore
Of course,
33.
it was 33. 33
Yeah.
degrees of masonry.
And I wanted
Illuminati
to work-
family.
I wanted 20, that's it. I wanted 21, but they gave me 33 anyway. With and then yeah.
Is that your
So,
home?
Yeah, that's where from 12 years old through college. But that's a block from the high school. And it was right in town, and football was the key thing going on there. Like my grandfather's barbershop, there were pictures of my dad and my uncle. It was like they were like folk heroes,
Great.
and everywhere I went as a child, people would tell me stories about my uncle and my dad. Like I'd be playing. I can remember I was riding my bike one time. I was about 8 years old, and one of the teachers from the elementary school were riding past her house, and she opened the door and yelled my name and told me to come over to the house, and took me inside, and she showed me where her son had won the Tommy Edwards Award, Memorial Award.
Oh my
which
God.
I also won as a senior. It was dedicated to my uncle.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then like the press did both the Roanoke Times and Rapid News Journal did features on the tale of two Tommies and all those kind of things. Like the News Journal sports writer, and he was Ralph Barrier. He works for the Roanoke Times now. Has for years. But after about week 4 of my junior year, interviewing him, he was interviewing me on Monday. We went. I met him up in the arsenal. In the armory at the high school, and he just looked at me. He goes, "So what do you want to talk about?" Because he'd already asked the same questions again and again 5 times, and that's kind of how it was from then on out. Like it was just I was always in the news and like in the paper, but also on like these Friday night post game like TV shows that all the local affiliates do now. They turn teenagers into celebrities.
Yes.
And
They're
we're not.
priming you and grooming you.
Yeah, and kids aren't. We're not equipped to deal with that type of attention. And it got bizarre. Like I said, when I was 14 years old, I would run around with one of my football coaches who was 25. And like when I was 15, 16, I had another the coach that was a grad student at the university who gave me his ID so I could have a fake ID when I went out west with my dad. And he bought me my junior year for homecoming. He bought me a half gallon of Jim Beam.
Oh, holy moly!
And that was standard operating.
Right? Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Behind the flags on Main Street, lurking beneath the rumble of the drum line and the military-style band, below the roar of the crowd on Friday nights, lives and breathes the monster. Waiting in the shadows, whispering sweet nothings into the hopes and dreams of children, adults alike. That shall not be named. The liar, the deceiver, death, the demon, and a monster with a million faces. C-D-E.
Is that your original score?
No, that's Black Sabbath.
Okay, I don't listen to anything like any of that kind of music for
It's a song called
myself.
Children of the Grave,
Okay,
and it was fitting, It's
yes,
something
I
kind of-
totally understand. I'm going to go back to this brain slosh test too. I'd like to, if it's okay with you and you guys, I'd like to play this.
Yes.
Can you tell us about how and why did you write this, Tommy?
Well, I wrote it. There was a friend of mine that had been. I think he was. I think he was my handler in Boise, but he was also my former brother-in-law's handler. He was an All-American from Boise State, and he was the youngest. Not the guy that inspired this, but my brother-in-law. He was the youngest assistant head coach in NCAA history, Division I, Montana State. His name is Joe O'Brien. When he got arrested for selling meth to an undercover police officer, and wound up doing some time in prison. There was a 30 for 30 on him on ESPN. But Johnny, who he grew up with in Northern California, he and I were talking on the phone one day, and I had talked to him a while, and he said, he goes, you've been through. He goes, you need some peace. You've been through, you live with a lot of pain. And I wrote that down, peace and pain, and then ended up writing a song about it. And then in 2018, like a couple weeks before the Tdap that put me in coma, my next door neighbor jumped off the bridge and committed suicide.
Jesus.
And he had started coming over and was getting me out and social again after I had a SWAT team sent after me in New Jersey. We were told that I was armed, homicidal, most likely headed for school just a couple weeks after the Parkland shootings. And this was the police in my hometown in retaliation that told them this in retaliation for me exposing a criminal conspiracy to try to silence me from talking about CTE. And this included the assistant, the deputy chief of police, whose husband was the supervising magistrate for all the magistrates in Southwest Virginia, who was one of my high school football coaches.
Of course.
And I'm still, my civil rights are still being denied, and hate crime. It equates to hate crimes because it's connected to the disability. And
Brenda was she's retired now. She actually, when you made the comment about you felt like you got run over by a car, she actually did get run over by a car.
Oh, wow.
And she is, and she was also, weren't you also in a coma, Brenda?
Yeah, for over 30 days.
Wow.
And she's now in a wheelchair, and they had to take one of her legs.
They tried to wake me up 2 weeks earlier, but I guess I wasn't having it, so they let me go ahead and sleep a little longer.
Wow.
So,
I
yeah.
got hit by.
You have brain injuries as well, Brenda?
I have some memory loss. Sometimes short-term memory is a lot of my problems sometimes. So yeah, I do that often. Like Penny said, do notes a lot. I could sit and read up on somebody and then 5 minutes later forget their name. I'm really good with faces though. I'm excellent with faces. I could look at somebody and say, I know you. Don't know where I know you from. Don't know your name, but I know you. So,
And
yeah.
when you talk about the corruption within the policing forces, I was married to a retired police officer. I know the corruption. We all do. We all know the corruption of the FBI, the CIA, and the policing forces, which, Susie can attest to because she was attacked on her land.
I was attacked multiple times in life.
They murdered our friend. They tried to kill
Right.
Susie. They tried to kill her son. It was cartel, and the head sheriff there, we believe, is involved because he was very corrupt.
Captain Underpants.
He was head of the Texas Rangers, and he ran
Captain Hot Dog. That's what I call it.
He ran Waco, so that Waco was a psyop. He was responsible for murdering many, many people. And just on a lighter note, because now you look like Elvis, I'm gonna I'm gonna bring in. There's no. It's just a picture, but I'm just gonna go ahead and play it because you're a fabulous singer and a fabulous musician. I just want to say that.
I could use a little peace, cause a little lot of pain. I keep throwing away the good stuff, flushing it down the drain. I could use a little hope, and it's a world of heartache. I keep spending all my money on dope, all giving and no take. And I'm falling in love with fading away. Every time I have a new idea, shadows wanna play, and I'm falling in love. We're living a dream. Every time I find a little peace, the demons kick and scream, and I'm falling in love with the way that things are. Picking on a new song, old guitar. I could get a little love. There's a world of hate. Spend the whole day getting ready just to show up late. I could use a little calm after the storm. I could wash up on some lonesome beach, somewhere nice and warm, and I'm falling in love with fading away. Every time I have a new idea, shadows wanna play, and I'm falling in love. Living a dream. Every time I find a little peace, the demons kick and scream, and I'm falling in love with the way that things are. Picking on a new song, old guitar. I live a lot of pain, saving up all the good stuff, living myself to stay. I could use a little light, and there's a world of headstones, tattoo scars and broken bones. I was alone on the telephone, and I'm falling in love with fading away. Every time I have a new idea, shadows wanna play, and I'm falling in love, living a dream. Every time I find a little peace, the demons kick and scream, and I'm falling in love with the way that things are. Picking on a new song, old guitar. I'm picking on a new song, old guitar. Picking on a new song with an old guitar.
Tommy Edwards. Tommy, where can people buy your music?
Right now, I've got to get it back up on streaming platforms. It got somehow it got taken down. Actually, the handler that revealed herself as an asset of the CIA in 2021 had put it back up there, and for some reason it didn't renew, and then we tried to put it back up this past, I guess, a few months ago, and for some reason TuneCore rejected it, because the wording was exactly the same in the way the tracks were. was the same tracks, the same names. It just some of the information about it was just included. And I have brain damage. I have a hard time with executive function stuff. So anything with any technology based stuff just drives me crazy. Like getting locked out of my Twitter today. Like last time I was locked out of Twitter for 2.5 years.
Holy moly. Yeah, I know. We tried to get on the spaces today and you're like, hey, I can't do the show. I said, well, we're not actually on Twitter. That it's a link that you click in on. But I'm going to ask you this. If they can't obtain your music, because you do have a YouTube channel where they can go there and they can listen. How can they help you? Do you have a GoFundMe?
I don't have a GoFundMe. I've got a like a Cash App thing that I use. And I put together a GoFundMe when my kid and his mom were in China, and she contacted me telling me that they had tuberculosis and they needed to come home immediately. And then when I put the GoFundMe up, she contacted everybody that donated, saying that I had made it up.
Oh, holy crap. Okay, so how about your Cash App? What is your Cash App? Can you give that out so people that want to contribute to you and try to help you, they can do that?
Yeah, that'd be great. My power and I'm at my mom's right now. My power and water have been off my house since November 2021 because of like $4,000 bill during COVID and fees and stuff. I got all that paid off, and then they said I had two outstanding bills from other places and a $500 like reconnection fee, which altogether is like $1,700. And I'm disabled, like. And I'm not on disability. Like I try to work, and then my brain will swell up, and I'll shut down for like a week at a time sometimes. And with the targeting, it messes me up. But it's like cash tag, which is like just the money symbol, the dollar symbol, and then it's capital D. It's Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong, and it's
really Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Yeah.
Bing bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Yeah, it was a joke kind of thing I did.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Is it Gonzo?
Yeah.
With a G?
Yeah.
Dr. Gonzo with a G. So it's D-R or D. Okay, D-R-G-O-N-Z-A.
Yeah, capital D, lowercase r, capital G, and the rest of it is lowercase.
So Gonzo, G-O-N-Z-O, Bing Bong.
That's it.
B-I-N-G-B-O-N-G. What's the rest of it?
That's it. Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong calling.
So Tommy, I have a question. You said you had handlers and stuff like that. Were they trying to get you to do things or join things that you didn't want to be a part of? Is that why your career was crippled?
Well, when in college they just try to when you're doing it, they just try to keep you wrangled, and try to keep you from getting in trouble, and just doing stupid shit. But they also, they do that by, providing substances and being, making sure you're the life of the party, and driving you around, But as an adult, it's been more of a control thing to limit my ability to influence others through my fame, or to like with the nonprofit, like. The woman I ended up in a relationship with and engaged to and almost married, my longest relationship I've ever had with anybody, wound up being a handler. And she's the one that she suddenly decided she wanted to buy an investment property in Nashville and have me live there. And I was in the building. I ended up living with in the same building with another handler that was a handler for Gray, who had the Gray area on Twitter. He was a Monarch operator, trained as a child there in West Nashville, and
so they kept people around you all the time, controlling you, monitoring you, keeping your profile down, so you'd never really advance. Is that right?
Yeah. So Laura took the assignment to disrupt you. To diminish and disrupt my nonprofit organization. She was a wealthy lady who was in the middle of a divorce that started just showing up everywhere I was, and flirting with me. And she asked if she could maybe join the board of directors for the nonprofit. And I was desperately trying to find funding and find somebody that was that existed within the wealthier circles, just in general, for donations and stuff.
Right.
And that's how she presented herself and brought herself in to the conversation. And then I was supposed to go to Nashville when I was living with Artemis, working with him. I needed to go to.
Do you think she was part of the program? Do you think? I mean, you think that
I
she
know
was
she was.
working with?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know she was. Yeah, I mean, like she gaslit the shit out of me for 5 years, and then and did all kinds of insidious shit. She was the one that pointed out the scars behind my ears, and one that works for the Kentucky organ donation, like
Donate organ body organs.
yeah,
Oh
like
my
she
God.
lives in Virginia. Now she lives in Virginia, in Troutville, Virginia, where she's a board of supervisors along with her mom, and but she is the donor center coordinator for the Kentucky Network of Organ Donation, which is centered out of Louisville, right?
Wow.
And
Louisville.
so that's just yeah.
Louisville,
And when she pointed out the scars behind my ears, I had talked about donate my brain, and she said that she was afraid that my body would disappear, and just kind of an odd coincidence with that. And she's got no background in organ donation. She was an esthetician that ended up getting that job, trained for that job, because she was working with a plastic surgeon and having an affair with him, yeah, and then she got fired. I was in the process of splitting up with her about a year prior to that, after I found she was having some affairs.
Was she part of a satanic occult or anything that you know of?
I don't know. She was involved in the Miss America organization. Like I was an official guest of the Miss America pageant in, I guess, 2013 or whatever. We went out to Las Vegas. It was the last year they had it out there, and she was trying to get me aligned as like a presenter, maybe for some of the state, like Miss Virginia kind of deal. And she had been a pageant girl growing up, and so had her mom. Like they raise boxer dogs, horses, and little girls. And it's kind of weird, like if you go on Animal Planet and look up boxer dog, that's her dog, the actual her actual dog. And then like she has a little girl who's a little woman now. She's in college, but she was the youngest saddlebred world champion, and bought a $75,000 horse, spent $1 million, and world champion.
That's what William Shatner does, is the saddlebreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him in Louisville at a horse show. Yeah.
She's the youngest winner of the Shatner class ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where my brother went to play ball. University of Louisville.
One of my childhood friends from middle school, best friends, lives in Louisville, and I'm pretty sure he's one of my handlers. And he'll call me out of the blue anytime like I'm having a lot of stress, and we'll have the same conversation over and over again, and it's like a calming thing, I guess. But and I appreciate him. He's actually a friend that he's got at least my well-being in mind, But and he lives in Louisville. And,
well, I was going to say, Tom knows quite a bit about the honeypot program, don't you, Tom?
I know an awful lot about it. So yeah, I slept with it.
Yeah, me too, several times.
Me too.
Literally.
I married it.
I had a buddy that used to call me Neo.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Because I mean, like I could do things. I had never had any training. Like when I had the nonprofit, we'd do stuff with the Ward Burton Wildlife Foundation, like these Wounded Warrior events, and out on his where he has this reserve. You do like fishing, and you do pistol competition, and then like you shoot like sporting plays and like archery. And I'd never shot a crossbow in my life, and I pick up a bolt action like antiquated crossbow and get 30 out of 30 and hit 3 bullseyes, one at 10, one at 20, and one at 30 feet or yards. And then the pistol competition, I had the highest score with the pistol competition with everybody except for the guy that was running it, and he was the range master from the local army camp or base. And I so 26 out of 30, and he got 28 out of 30. And it was a pistol I'd never touched before. And like I've gotten like physically attacked several times throughout my life, and been able to, in a non-aggressive way, get away from someone who was attacking me. At one point, I got sucker punched by a 5th-degree black belt in Blacksburg. I guess it was 2006. When I was home in Easter helping my dad, and I'm wearing like a leather blazer and a cowboy hat and glasses. And this guy, out of my peripheral vision, I see something coming at me, and I just put my arm up like that, and it cracked this bone, just a hairline fracture. And that was the only punch he landed. After that, I flipped my hat and glasses off and tried to get the blazer off because it was restrictive, and it got caught behind my back like this on my elbows, so my arms were like this. I couldn't get it off me. And he didn't land another punch or kick. And one of his buddies tried to get his attention, and he punched his buddy right as some cops rolled up. And then another case, I body checked a Hell's Angel prospect in Ventura outside of a venue called San Souci that I turned into a kind of a popular spot by playing music there on Mondays. And this was a new bouncer, great big guys, like 6'8", 350 pounds. And my roommate was there at the door, like trying to get in. It was packed. Suddenly became the hot spot in town, and Jason was there talking trash to the bouncers who weren't letting him in. He's like, "But Tommy's my roommate," you know. And the guy, he said something smart to the guy, and he just punched him, knocked him out in the first punch, and then hit him again before he hit the ground, and then proceeded to bounce his head off the concrete half a dozen times. And I ran over and body checked the guy, just because you don't, he's going to kill him. Right. And then that guy ended up getting a hold of me, get me on the ground. This is 3 weeks out of intensive care with a fractured skull from a downhill skateboard accident. And then I had the wherewithal to take my glasses off and slide them up underneath a paper box. So there's like brick wall, concrete, and paper box. And after I got the glasses off, I was able to get out from underneath him, and he had my sweatshirt. I couldn't get away from him, so I jumped up and did a barrel roll in the air over the hood of a car, and twisted myself out of his grip. And I hit the edge of the car on the other side, and came up, landed on my feet, came around the block to get my glasses. Right, the cops were there, and then that guy had sent word through somebody I knew, through a girl I knew, that if I pressed charges, that they were going to Hell's Angels were going to murder me and bury me in the avocado orchard, which I found out later.
They have a tendency to do that.
Yeah, George Christie was the president of the Hell's Angels at the time. He used to come watch me every Monday, and he'd bring some of his guys.
What year was that?
That was 2004, 5. No, 2005. No, before the fractured skull. So 2002 and 3. 2002 and 3. Yeah, so the fight happened in 2003. That's like maybe September, and then after that, I put all my shit in storage and lived in my truck on Ventura Avenue, off Ventura Avenue, in a friend's driveway for a few months, and then I went from there to Malibu. And years later, the same girl contacted me on Facebook and told me that once Christy found out that that prospect had used the club to threaten me, and that I had just disappeared, that they took him out in the desert and left him out there, just to walk back.
Disappeared, or he walked back?
He didn't disappear, but the tattoos that he'd started getting, they weren't on his body anymore.
Wow. I wanted to ask you a question about, you had said that your dad went to a camp, but you also talked about the CIA farm, which Camp Perry, and I looked it up, it's about 7 hours and 6 minutes from Radford. Camp Perry is approximately 9,000 acre U.S. military reservation in York County near Williamsburg, Virginia, officially referred to as an Armed Forces Experimental Training Activity under the authority of the Department of Defense. Camp Perry hosts a covert CIA training facility known as the Farm, which is used to train officers of the CIA's Directorate of Operations, as well as those in the DIA, Defense Clandestine Service, among other intelligence entities. Its facilities are also available to the members of the intelligence community for off-site activities such as conferences and working groups. It has a sister facility, The Point, located in Hetford, North Carolina. Do you think maybe that was the camp that he actually went to?
I think this was a camp for for teenage boys or preteens maybe, but I don't know. Like my aunt just mentioned it at my grandfather's funeral, and then I brought it to my dad a few times, and he has no recollection of it at all. Of course, I'm pretty sure he's got some CTE as well, like and multiple personalities. That's something that got me kind of thinking in that direction after I learned that.
Yeah.
It's very possible that they took him as a child or as a young adult. They took him there because it's an experimental facility, and they also have off-site facilities. So maybe a CIA operation occurred with your dad, was what I'm thinking.
Well, I was taken to where my grandmother worked in the underground facility at the Bradford Arsenal and programmed there, and endured some ritual abuse there as a young child. And then I don't know how long that lasted, because I started recovering some of these memories after they had the SWAT team sent after me. I didn't sleep for 9 days after I spoke, and it happened to me. And then I heard about it, and then when I called the SWAT commander to get the details, and he said that the armed homicidal must have headed for a school, and all that shit, that what he had been told. And this was for a wellness check that was generated from within the police department as a way to retaliate against me. They went to my house, broke in my house, and were searching my house and opened my safe and pinged my phone to figure out where I was. And then they contacted the SWAT team in Bergen County, New Jersey, where Newark, New Jersey is. So it's the Newark SWAT team that came in after me, hot and heavy, thinking they're going to stop a potential school shooter. Now, granted, I started a nonprofit that I ran for 8 years to prevent school shootings.
Yeah, I did my master's thesis on school shootings.
And I worked for the community service boards, creating programming to serve the mental health community, and the anecdotal evidence that we had coming out of this stuff was astronomical. It was cost saving, and it worked. It was beneficial. I ended up doing youth crisis intervention work when I was working for them, and it was that was one of the most hurtful things for them to suggest that I was a potential school shooter. I got banned from the school properties and all school events, home and away, in my hometown, at the demand of one parent that said that if they didn't bar me from all the schools and stuff, that they would take their kid and educate him somewhere else, which they have the right to do that, but they don't have a right to deny me my civil rights. Now, they did this by coercing my sister, who was a principal at one of the schools, into but they sent a school resource officer who was the subordinate of the deputy chief of police, whose husband was my football coach, and the magistrate, and to go to a magistrate who was the subordinate of the magistrate, the supervising magistrate, who was my coach, to get an ECO, which is an emergency custody order. And then I was taken to an evaluation center, and when I told the evaluator that I had CTE before we went in, after she was sitting there laughing and joking with the police officers when we arrived, and kind of just ignored that I was standing there. And then she's laughing, and then she looks at me and goes, "Let's go." And I said, I was making a cup of coffee or something before we went in. I hadn't eaten that morning, and I'd driven all night back from New Jersey, and where I'd been. I was dating a girl up there. That's why I was up there when I got the SWAT team sent after me. And yeah, Target is crazy. And so I'm there. And I said, I had CTE, and it was just like a family argument that spilled over into social media. And she looked at me, and this is the expert for the state who evaluates people to decide whether or not they need to go to the hospital for a 72-hour hold. She said, "Never heard of it," like I'd made it up. And then the two pieces of evidence that they used to suggest that I needed to be hospitalized were two Facebook posts. One of them was a post where I decided to close my music venue that I had in my shop, and I was going to sell the back line, the bass drums and the PA and stuff, because I had a bunch of extra equipment I didn't need. And I put that I would consider trades for firearms, which you can sell at market value, which you can't for like a bass guitar. If you want to take it on it, you get 10%, But everybody's trying to buy guns or precious metals. And I had another post that was one of those provocative think pieces, where I stated that I didn't have a a will, you know, and I have a son, and like something I should probably do. And if I wrote a will, I would probably include this information. And it was like a scenario. It wasn't like a mission of like self-harm at all. It even said that this is a mock last will and testament, you know, and but they took screenshots of it to where it was redacted. You know, it didn't show the whole context. And so these two printed pieces of paper, and now there's a laptop sitting in front of me, and it's open to her Facebook page. And I say, would you mind if I open these two posts and you could see it in context? And she said, yep. And she just closed the laptop. And then sent me to the hospital, where I spoke with a doctor there. This was just like an intake doctor at the emergency room, who stated that I didn't have to do a drug test or anything or urinalysis. And then later came in, and the nurse came in and said that I had to do urinalysis, and if I didn't, they would forcibly catheterize me.
Forcibly what?
Catheterize.
Yeah.
Which sounds
That's what they do
awful.
when I go to pass a kidney stone. If I can't go, then they tell me they'll put a catheter and they'll take from the bladder.
Now, I'm under armed escort the whole time, sitting there with the door open, and people walking by just stopping and staring in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy, so what have you been doing lately, like these days? I did see that you do some drawing.
Yeah,
Which
I'm
is
a
pretty
visual
good.
artist.
Are you?
I'm a painter and photographer and filmmaker. I've been trying to get work on this film. I got everything that I need, like as far as footage. Every time I go to edit it, like suddenly my computer won't work, or all of my hard drives disappear. I mean, they get stolen out of my house or my mom's house. I mean, I got to take it with me anywhere I go, or like hide them. You know, even when I hide them, sometimes they disappear, and then they'll show back up in the weirdest fucking places. I've had 3 laptops crash and 2 towers crash in the last year and a half. Just don't. Anytime I go to use it, suddenly the software would update for like 8 hours.
Wow.
So it's like I found evidence of Pegasus software on my phone last year.
Found
Right.
evidence of what?
Pegasus spyware.
It's awful spyware, Susie. They
NFL.
never.
Yeah, I know there's a
ways
Pegasus.
to-
I went to school in Akron, Ohio, and I tested. They came around and tested the kids, and I tested the highest in the state of Ohio for hand and eye coordination, and it was called Pegasus testing. And then there was a Pegasus government group that took 42 children and were time traveling with them. And I remember sitting in my classroom and waiting for Pegasus to come get me so I could go from place to place. But I don't, all I remember was there was a lady that used to show up in the parking lot and that I would wait for her, but I don't remember. But I did have some later incidences where I was experiencing time travel and things like that. So and then my mom ended up, it was so weird. I lived in Akron, Ohio. My mom ended up having a family issue and just loaded me and my brother up to fly to the Virgin Islands for a year. So I think that's how I got pulled out of the program from the time travel, because they were using children as kind of like guinea pigs in this program.
Right here.
You were in the Pegasus program? Really?
For sure.
Okay. What can you tell us about that? What do you remember, or what do you?
Well, my handler or my programmer from the guy I ran into at Tasty Freeze when I was 6 years old, when I was there with my grandmother, that started this whole kind of deal. And later, when I was in San Diego, I was putting together this cream of the crop like production thing, and I was just on the phone trying to sell sponsorships and trying to get different companies to sponsor and donate things like surfboards, skateboards, stuff to give away for door prizes, studio time for the winners and stuff like that. And there's this older gentleman sitting in a wheelchair, missing his lower left leg, in like beret and like army fatigues, and it was weird. It kind of intimidated me a little bit, and I couldn't understand why. And then it was outside of Twigs Coffee in University Heights, and they have a listening room where they have music at night. but during the day
Mhm.
it doubled as an NAAA facility or meeting space. And so there's NA, the guys are coming out of NA, and like all these hard looking gangsters, like like Vato, like like San Diego Charger tattoos on their head, and like MS-13, like and
Right.
stuff. They're all walking up, giving this guy a hug and like showing him respect. And then he starts talking to me, and starts up a conversation. And turns out he was the guy I bumped into when I was a kid. I didn't find that out 2 years later. But he became like that day. I walked him home to his house a couple blocks away. Met his wife and his daughter who had Asperger's, who was a painter and artist, and he was showing me her art, And Daryl Gentry is his name. He passed away 2015.
Was that the remote viewing guy, Tommy?
Yeah. So and he introduced me to these concepts by like initially he talked about like Fenhorn Garden in Scotland. And how just the concepts of energy and stuff, and then he talked about the Brotherhood of the Sun up in Santa Barbara that started these organic grocery stores and it was a commune that he assimilated into as a young man as a way to study the human potential movement. And then right before I came home in 2007 for Easter, he said, "Well, it's been nice knowing you, Touchdown, because if you go home, they need you more there than they do here." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I got this production thing going on, and things are going good." He goes, "If you come back, it'll just be to get your stuff." And he takes me down into his garage and has me dig out this box and pulls out this sheepskin rug. They said, "This is yours," because this was given to me and entrusted to me to give to you. And when Norman Paulson, who started the Brotherhood of the Sun in Santa Barbara, asked him to leave because he was in conflict with Norman's kind of philosophies and stuff, and creating some commotion within the commune there. He gave him that and described what I looked like and told him my birthday. And this sheepskin rug was one of Yogananda's yoga blankets. And Yogananda started the Self-Realization Fellowship and brought yoga to the West from India in the turn of the last century. And weird shit, and that was right before I went home, and the Virginia Tech shootings happened while I was home, and I moved home. I went back out to get my stuff and moved home. Started a nonprofit organization. And then
Is Daryl still alive?
he died in 2015.
Did you say that at University Heights?
Yep.
Yeah, I live like 15 minutes from there.
We both lived on Alabama Street. He lived down near Adams Avenue. I lived over near El Cajon Boulevard.
Okay, I lived in El Cajon at one point, but I also lived in Mission Valley. I lived in El Cajon. I got married at Shadow Mountain, which is in El Cajon.
Yeah.
Jeremiah's venue.
Yeah. Familiar. Yeah. So, and it like before he died, he told me that I would meet a woman after he died that would take his place as my guide and protector. And then in January 2020, after I'd come home, 2019, I moved to Nashville because I was concerned that the police were going to murder me. And actually, my girlfriend, after the swatting event in 2018, the police, or she followed me back to Virginia from New Jersey to confront the police to make sure they knew that somebody else knew. And a buddy of mine who had been a former bandmate that lived in Nashville was concerned that they would that the police would murder me there too. And we'd all been in a band together in Radford there and shared a house back in '98, and he begged me to move to Nashville. So I moved to Nashville in I guess May of 2019, and I packed up stuff what I could fit in my van, moved there. I lived in my van in his driveway until one of his roommates moved out a couple months later. And got a job working at a bar downtown, and that's when I was still recovering from that brain injury from the vaccine. So I didn't tell him I need a cane sometimes, And then, but I came home because I got laid off Christmas Eve after visiting my son in Kansas, and that I was broke after that. So I mean, like I went at New Year's Eve with a handful of change, and it was back in Virginia. I get a phone call from somebody that I had met during the cream of the crop in Nashville in 2011 when I was living in Nashville, and this lady who lived in Charlotte at the time, but she was back at her hometown in West Virginia, and she was kind of having. Her name was Jody. She was also a handler and CIA operator, and she said that she got pulled over with bad tags and got arrested, and her dog got out and ran off. So she was looking for a dog and just kind of like just really having a rough time. She said, "It's okay. My cousin Kimmy's with me. She's a seer." And then I immediately saw a picture of this woman in my head, and I described her to Jody. She said, that's." I said, "Does she have a collection of Kachina dolls?" Because that's Daryl. Before he died, he said, "I would know this person because they would have this collection of Kachina dolls, which are like Native American spirit dolls, from like Zuni, Southwest tribes." And she's like, "Yeah, she's got like a creepy, like huge collection of them." And then I said, "Will you give her my number and have her call me?" And Jody said, when she got off the phone with her, Kim said, "Does he have Parkinson's?" She's also psychic and a medium. And that night, I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, "Daryl's here. He wants to talk to you." Now, granted, he'd been dead for 3 years at this point. And, it was 2020, so he'd been dead 5 years at this point. And all of a sudden, Daryl starts talking to me. And I'm talking to him, and he's calling me all the shit that he did before, talking to me the same way, same with his voice. Now, I don't know if this was AI or something, but I had a fun conversation with him for an hour.
Wow, weird.
And he told me all this shit and that I needed to prepare for and do. And then over the course of the next year, Kim, who she was the person he was describing, she tells me that his spirit showed up in her living room one day and just sat on the couch until she said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want you to help my friend Tommy." And
wow.
turns out that I'm number 42 in this program, and it was like an offshoot of the Stargate program initially.
In the Pegasus program, you said you were number 42?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
What about Stargate?
42, it's somewhere in there. And then, but Kim was, she was number 43. And then my other handler, Frankenstein, was 44.
Wow.
Music producer down in Texas. He was Army Airborne, and he got injured horribly. I think in Oak Ridge, Kentucky. They told him it was a car wreck, but he thinks it was some experiments in Oak Ridge when they were experimenting doing stuff with the back rooms, and liminal spaces, and like dimensional mirrors, as a way for the deep state and shadow government to be able to step into this alternate dimension in case there was a nuclear war.
Was that? Did that have anything to do with did you have anything to do with the Stargate program?
Yeah, that's where they're looking for kids with psychic abilities as a way to enhance them with ritual abuse.
Do you know who Tommy? Do you know who Michael Aquino was?
He was one of my programmers. Yeah, he
Did you know him?
Yeah, I mean he would put needles in my genitalia and then shock me with. He would touch the needles with a stun gun.
Oh my God! I can't even imagine.
Yeah, he was a monster.
Yes.
Yes, I told him about Chet. That Chet was supposed to kill him, and then he ended up in a coma. And then the night before he died, that he texted you and said he wanted to kill him, and you said I believe he's already dead. And Tommy said if he wasn't dead, I would kill him too.
Yeah, he was stabbed to death in Australia by a satanic ritually abused. Actually, it was a guy named Mitch who stabbed him to death in Australia, but he was with another guy who had been ritually abused by Aquino. So Aquino, I think in 95, 96 worked at Cheyenne Mountain with the Stargate program. So he worked with the Montauk program also, but that's when he got in trouble in the Presidio scandal, where he was, under 75 children accused him. Of course, he didn't get, convicted of anything because, it was a matter of national security.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But he worked in the Montauk program as well, and he went over there during that scandal that year. Was working over there, but he worked with a lot of super soldiers, sent them back in time. He sent one of his super soldiers, Stuart Swerdlow, back in time to kill Jesus, and then Stuart went back with a gun to kill Jesus. And when he got there, he said Jesus was standing on these steps, and he looked at him, and he said he got scared and he ran away. He couldn't do it, and so he got punished severely when he got back. So his next trip back, he was taught to go get the blood off the cross of Jesus so they could bring it back and clone Jesus for the Antichrist. They wanted to create an Antichrist, so they needed the blood. That's a whole big story, but yeah, if you were Satan, and this is what Jesus told me, that Michael Aquino is Satan in the flesh. If you were Satan, what would you do? You would go back and you would try to kill Jesus if you had a time machine, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So when I
Right.
was at Tech, the summer of '94, I was living off campus in a house, and I started experiencing like what I thought was alien abduction, where I'd be paralyzed and couldn't move, and something there, and that was part of my descent into my breakdown. And
Yeah, they have a lot of technology to do that.
that's what led me to go to Boise. What was going on? I'm pretty sure it was like my lab abductions. It was like military abductions, and they were taking me to Butt Mountain facility, which is 75 stories down inside of a mountain over in Giles County, not too far from Virginia Tech. And there was a Montauk chair there, and it was underneath where the where Mountain Lake Lodge is, where they filmed Dirty Dancing. Just up behind there. There's Virginia Tech Deep Underground Geological Study. It's like a building with a little fence around it. But yeah, I remember being strapped into this chair, and the whoever was in charge of the thing that was running it, it was military, had kind of had a Texas accent, like it reminded me of Brad Pitt's character in Inglourious Bastards. Just that's what it triggered.
Well, John Brennan, head of CIA, worked with Michael Aquino, so it's all tied in together.
I remember the guy yelling, "You buy the ticket, you take the ride." Just being terrified.
What did he say?
You buy the ticket, you take the ride.
Oh my God!
You bought a ticket, you take the ride.
Exactly.
Get on the ride. Get on the ride now. You bought the ticket.
Yeah, I was strapped in. Didn't have any choice in the matter, and so
Damn.
the Montauk chair was basically a piece of recovered equipment, like extraterrestrial or non-terrestrial technology that they strapped fixed into this chair and then hooked to a big like satellite dish they'd use for what you call it, radar. Big radar dish at Camp Hero in Montauk, New
Sounds
York.
like something in your script of The Matrix, Tom. The chair that they get in and they travel around, right? Tom wrote the Matrix.
I'm listening, it's going like, all the stuff I was downloaded. I mean, you're talking about the Cheyenne Mountain or whatever, and that's the original Zion. In the original script here, the original underground Zion is actually that facility, and that was just downloaded through me. That I was given that download, and then the whole idea of oh my God, everything you guys are talking about, like the ghost program, what I got in that, and the thing where you're offered, you enter the program or you're annihilated. It's like you're not given a choice. You're told you're joining the program. Even if you get too close to catching on, then you're brought in. You're seen as intelligent by high ups, and so you're brought into the program rather than being eliminated. They're looking for people that are intelligent, and they want to absorb them to utilize them, and that's what happened to me. So, and they'll tell you things like you got too close, you were too good, and then you're offered the red pill, if you will, and if you don't take it, well, then you're a liability to them. So there's no way out. So what I did was I pretended to go along with it, and hoping to find a way to help others. Yeah.
I started, like when I went to Boise State on my visit to see if I wanted to go there. My host and I ate some mushrooms, and I had an out of body experience. Like I shot up out of my body, 550 feet or so above, and I could see myself and my two hosts standing on this bridge. It was a footbridge over the Boise River, and it was raining, and there was a torrent. Just the water was just running like crazy, and we just come from downtown and walked through this park where there's a big rose garden and big like gazebo kind of thing with roses growing on lattice work and everything. And I had a download in the rose garden there, and it was like the Big Bang. I closed my eyes, I'd see the Big Bang, and then it would collapse back to singularity and blow up to expand and encompass everything with light, and then back to a singularity. And I started trying to explain this. I kept saying everything is nothing, nothing is everything, and then just trying to break it down and put it into words for like the next 3 years until I ended up.
You know what? The Holy Spirit, which I call Sophia, she told me one night about the Big Bang. I heard this huge explosion in the spiritual realm, and I said, "What is that?" And she said, "That is the reset button. Like when they go back and they change something, then it's like a huge explosion because everything has to reset."
And I was describing the multiverse, because when it explodes, when it expands somewhere else, it's collapsing. If it's expanding here, it's collapsing somewhere else. So it's like recycling of energy, and it's the same thing that happens at the subatomic particle level. And as above, so below, the macro and the micro. And then
or like life is like an electrical explosion when you're conceived. Yeah.
And then in 96, Memorial Day 96, two of my buddies from college came over to Radford to hang out with me, and we ate some mushrooms and went to this little park that's right next to the high school there, and we started hearing drums coming from this tunnel that they had built a land bridge over this valley to connect the two parts of the town that used to be like Lovely Mount and Central Depot, and they had a bridge there. But during the Great Depression, as part of the CCC, the Citizens Conservation Corps or whatever, they built all these big projects to where they built this tunnel. So there was a creek that ran through there, and out into the New River, which is arguably the oldest known river in the world, and it flows north up into the Ohio. Radford sits on the inside of a horseshoe that's surrounded on three sides by this river, and this is like right with the river plain. On the other side of the tunnel is a city park where they had bulldozed a bunch of mounds, Indian mounds, from like Mississippian Indian civilization, and so that little it was considered the crossroads of North America, because it didn't have any of its own like cultural characteristics, but there were things from from the Florida Keys, fossilized like wampum, like fossilized coral, and there was also like obsidian from Canada and different things that they found there. Well, coming from this tunnel, and there's the creek flows through it, and then there's like a pipe that runs through there. It's like a water main that when we were kids, we could walk on it and go over to the other park. And we went to the nature preserve because it was owned by the city and the parks department, but it wasn't well maintained, so it was closed and had been for like several years. Because in the 70s they built a bunch of trails and stuff, but then they didn't maintain them. So we figured that'd be a safe place to hang out. Well, then we heard these drums coming from the tunnel, and I'm thinking, oh, it's probably a powwow. They used to have powwows over on the city park at Bissett Park. So we get on the pipe and start walking through, and about halfway through I stop and start singing because of the echo in there. And it's a song that I had when I was in Boise after a brain injury, where I had experienced Wernicke's aphasia, where it messed with the Wernicke's region of my brain, which interprets language. And so suddenly I started waking up with like ruminating poetry, and that turned into music. So I stopped and sang the song, talked about wanting to record a song down there. And then we walked on to go over to the powwow. And as soon as we stepped out of the tunnel, on that side of the tunnel, no drums, just birds chirping. And maybe an occasional car went by. And we decided that was weird as shit. So we were going to go back the other way. And you step back in the tunnel and you hear the drums again. It wasn't as loud though. And then as we started walking back, it got softer and softer and softer. And when we got to where we had stopped the first time and I'd sang the song, all of a sudden we noticed there was no more drums, but there was a fucking hole in the creek. Just a big black hole just dropped out. And so it was like the water was coming and just swirling like a like a like a drain, you know, and it was the width of the tunnel. So it's like a wormhole opened up, and sat there and stared at us. My buddy thought I was going to jump in. He said he was going to jump after me.
Oh, good.
And so sit there for a while and stare at this like, what the fuck? Pardon my language. And then we said, okay, that's weird enough. We went back to the nature reserve, and we came out. I had another download, and it was like I was talking about the fractal nature of reality and how it's all just a big algorithm. And you could see the fractals in the layers of the stratosphere and ionosphere and stuff. And even the way the valley and the trees and everything, it was a big fractal. I could see it's like a 4-dimensional fractal, like a Mandelbrot set. So then I start talking about that, and they're just like in awe. And then I start hearing this weird kind of bird noise coming from a tree off to my left, and the tree didn't really have any. It didn't have any leaves on it. It was like it was still early in the year, but there should have been more leaves on it, you know. And it sounded kind of like a cardinal, but with like an electronic echo or something on it, like not natural. So we walk over, and they're like, "What? It's just a bird." And I'm like, "Do you see a bird?" And I was shaking the tree, and nothing there. Nothing flew away. We couldn't see anything around it. We decided, okay, that's enough weird shit. We're gonna go. So as we're leaving, you have to walk back down this road, and then to the drive that goes out of there, which is like it's a hill you go up. And as we go up the hill, suddenly inside a locked parking lot, which is like boulders and a big metal thing with a lock on it, there's a car sitting inside that hadn't been there when we came through it maybe an hour earlier. And the car wasn't like a normal car. It looked just like a Ford Probe. It was like teal green, had West Virginia license plate on it. My buddy reads something off the plate. It said "Wild and Wonderful," and I remember saying that. But we walked up to it, and the windows were opaque black. You could not see in it. Oh, I'm talking about the windshield, all of them. It wasn't like a real car. And my buddy tried to open the door handle, and it didn't move at all. It didn't jiggle. It didn't do anything. It was like just solid attached to it. I went over and sat down and started doing like this meditative breathing. I was studying all this esoteric shit and trying to understand what started happening to me at Tech, and that led me to like the ufology and like the book Communion by Whitley Strieber, and then all these other like esoteric books and stuff. So I started doing this meditative breathing that I learned that from a Thich Nhat Hanh book, Living Buddha, Living Christ. And as I'm doing this, I'm sitting breathing and doing this. All of a sudden, buddies walk around the other side, and the car rippled like water, and all the distinguishing features of it disappeared, and like the wheels sucked up into it, and it was just like this blob of like mercury floating in front of us that was about the size of a car, just like looked like liquid mirror. And we sat there and stared at this thing for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, and then like all of a sudden the wheels drop back down out of the thing. It takes on all the distinguishing features of the car again. I get up, walk off. My buddies follow me. We don't say a word to each other. Get back to my apartment, which was like a couple blocks away. They get in the car. They're like, "Bye, see you later." And then like maybe a month or two later, at a party in Blacksburg, I run into them, and they're like, "What the fuck was that thing?" And like,
that sounds like the black goo. It's a living sentient being, and it can do that. It sounds like something like that. It's like an actual living, what I mean? That you said
a
black
living
mercury.
craft, because they say the craft are living, and that they use DNA to run it. It doesn't run on fuel. It runs on the DNA of its alien inhabitant. It's like in future, it'll be, like your fingerprint on a fob that opens your vehicle. We're already seeing that. Tom knows all this technology.
Well, you guys made me think of something. Like there's always in the Matrix story, the Immortals, which they copyright the title as Immortals. It's like everything seems to be coming true, from the fake oath of office to the underground cities and everything. And just tonight, hearing you guys all talk, I know I've been very quiet, but I've been taking it in. And it occurred to me that in the original download of the work, there's the underground city of the benevolent people. And what's interesting is that if you look at throughout history, you have the congressmen and senators of Washington to have their government go underground, wintergreen, things like this. What about a city underground where those that have a heart of compassion, that are artists and such, and we all have a safe haven together? And then
I want those, Tom.
I will have you there. And so if I'm worth 1.2 billion on my work right now, I think it'd be really cool that the code is already in the original material to have a city underground. If you look at the extinction event with the asteroid hitting the Earth, and the mammals rose again to dominate the Earth because they were burrowers. They were able to be underground. And you have that amazing place in Turkey, I think it is, where you have an underground city in Turkey
Yeah.
that was about the Ice Age, we all know about. And then, so what about having an underground city where just those that are really benevolent, and of course anyone can raise the specter of how do you know, we'll know. A lot of us have the ability to know if people have a good heart. I was measured on my heart before I was even given the download of the work. So I would love to have the people that actually have a heart that was intended in the original material. This material right here is to be a code to draw in the best people who had the kindest hearts, that were visionaries, to make a difference in our world. It may just be that if this event comes and is instituted, then I would certainly like to have those people gathered, or the best I can find, where we'll reemerge. And what a great world that will be. I can almost see a scenario in a movie made where the Congress and senators and all those hotshots of Hollywood and the cabal and Pentagon and the government in Washington go underground. We go underground. Something happens to them. We're the ones that emerge. What a beautiful world that would be.
Right?
Right
Well,
for the
listen.
Matrix Rider. Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, everybody, we are running out of time. So, Susie, tell everybody where they can find you.
Just, here on Friday and Saturday nights, and on the Awake Nation every other Friday with Peony and Dave, and on Facebook under Suzanne Hott, Hotte. That's it.
Okay, and Tommy, where can people find you when you want to be found?
In the quantum field.
There's two Tommies. So there's Tommy Edwards.
Tom, I call
Tommy and
Tom.
Thomas.
I'm calling Tommy.
Okay, so Tommy Edwards.
So
This is your life.
social media on like Facebook under Touchdown Tommy Edwards, and then on Instagram the same thing. My main page on X is TD Tommy 33.
Were you able to get back into that, Tommy?
Not yet. I'm gonna have to contact them. I sent information.
Okay.
Like,
What's your new one?
Shit. It's on the other phone. Hold on. And there's no profile picture or anything yet. I just set it up to do that space. But it's Tom Edwards. Something. It's some numbers. Let me look.
Okay. Well, I tell you what,
Like
you guys
42? Tommy
you guys
42.
can text my phone if you need to get in touch with Tommy. I'll make sure that you do.
Here,
And my phone is 619-779-9771. What is it, Tommy?
It's Tom Edwards with capital T and then 79400. And then, of course, the hashtag thing. And then my OnlyFans is something I can't remember, but it's just pictures of fans, like oscillating fans and stuff like that. It's a joke.
That's hysterical. And where can they find you on YouTube?
YouTube under shit. Let me see.
Really?
Yeah, I know I'm terrible.
Having a brain fog here.
The same way, man. Penny
That's
asks me all the
understandable.
time. Where you at under X?
Under X,
Right. I know what mine is because when I started mine, apparently I was in and then I was out. I started Shepherd out after I watched the movie with Brad Pitt and I used to call Darrell my my Robert Redford, and they did a movie called Spy Games. And in Spy Games, Brad Pitt buys him. He finds out what his birthday is. He says, Langley had 7 birthdays for you. And he said, how did you find out what my birthday was? They go to a Mexican restaurant. They have to go through a DMZ zone. He's like, I don't want to get shot just to eat. And so they get there, and he gives him this flask that he got because he only drinks 20-year-old scotch. And he said, how did you get this? Did you buy it here? And I don't know where they were, like Afghanistan. He said, no. He said, I had a whole procedure. I found out what your birthday was. And I found out from Langley because they gave me all these different files. And he said, I called the operation Dinner Out. So I started my my main page on Twitter, now X, and I called it Shepherd Out because I knew I was involved in a bunch of operations. And then also when I'm really tired, my eyes cross and I just say Shepherd Out.
But
at Tommy Edwards 7062 on YouTube.
okay. And Tom, where can everybody find you?
Well, I did this wonderful show, the Dream Team with Penny, and so yeah, I'm saying that. And then the Triage team Mondays, and then here, of course, and then we're resurrecting our website that's been struck twice, and it's the Real Neo Story at world.net. You're going to find that, and yeah, so it's really wild. You just made me think too about how I would enter onto military bases, even like friends of mine that were in the military, they're going to play racquetball, right? We go onto a military base and they're going to check your IDs, right? And so they would shine the light on even the friend who was in the military that attended the base. And they'd shine light on him, they shine light on the next ID, and they like, let me see it. And then they get to me, they shine the light my way, and they say, go ahead. I wasn't even part of the military base, and they wouldn't even want to see my ID. They're just like, you go ahead.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. They'd be
Right,
like,
very weird.
And
Very, very weird. Well, you can actually find me on the Awake Nation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time. That's 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Time. And that's, again, Monday through Friday. You can find us at theawakenation.com, which is our web, or you can find us at David Zublick's Awake Nation on Rumble. We also do Dark Outpost. Susie will be on a Dark Outpost. We call her segment Hot Shots. And also the Dream Team will also be on the Dark Outpost. I just haven't had a minute to book everyone, but I'm getting there. And then also here on Beyond the Box, I'm also booking another show or working with Christy Tasker, who's had some issues lately. So I love her, and she's an outstanding individual who we all love very much because she's putting away some of these corrupt individuals. And her show is called Patriots Perspective, and she's on the Awake Nation every Tuesday. So we expect a brief update from her as to some of the things that have transpired this last week. So that's where you can find me. And then also I want to mention to people, if you would like to donate to Suzanne Hott for her animal fund, because she rescues animals. She has dogs and she has rescue horses. You can contribute to her at bowarrowhorses@yahoo.com. And Tommy, can you tell people what your Cash App is again? It's floating around over here, but I just want to hear you say it.
Yeah, it's Cash App. It's a dollar symbol, Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong, with the D and the G are capitalized.
So that's Polly Wally Bing Bong.
Yeah. Dr. Gonzo.
And
Right.
and Tom, somebody would like to know what
Yeah,
your
I summed it up from.
website is.
So there's
I
the
don't know if they could see that. I sure
the
can.
Real Neo Story at worldnet.com, I think is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That
Nice.
works. And
Yeah, Tommy, we're gonna have to have you come back, so you can
For
tell
sure.
more.
'Cause
Yeah.
we only scratched the little itty bitty subject. I just wanted to give a foundation of who you are. So I think we kind of adequately did that. And I thank you so very much, Tommy, for coming on Beyond the Box. You've been an immeasurable help to the world, actually.
yes.
I
Thank you
try.
so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we are going to wrap it up. Good night, Norma. I did see your message. Oh, look at that. We're gonna
That
go ahead
reminds
and
me
wrap
of
it
the
up.
crystal skull. That was
It
something
does,
associated
doesn't
with Michael Aquino.
Right.
Yeah. Another
Well,
Michael
you're a good
Aquino crystal skull technology.
You're a good painter.
So we are going to say good night because I know Penny's eyes are crossing. I've already got the message.
They are. Yep. My eyes are like this.
All right. And everybody, have a good night. See us tomorrow night.
Good night, everybody.
Yes. We'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And we will see y'all later. And be good to one another. Bye-bye.
Y'all be
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside.